All right, so we're talking about miles per hour. And what happens is when people see miles per hour, they think of it being one thing. What miles per hour actually is a ratio of how many miles you go uh, in a certain amount of hours, or in this particular case, 1 hour. All right, so you can see here that they're going 25 miles in 1 hour. And that's something to keep in mind. So there's a ratio here of the fact that they're going 25 miles in 1 hour. So that's going to be our ratio here. 25 miles in 1 hour. And this problem, if the family drove for 9 hours, how far did they drive? So again, we're looking for 9 hours. So 9 hours, again, we're looking here, is it miles or hours? It's hour, so 9 is going to go down here, and that's what we're trying to figure out up here. So from here, there's a couple different ways to kind of get there. One way is the method we talked about before, where we can cross multiply. So we can cross multiply and say 1 times x is 1x, and 9 times 25 is 225. And so we can sit there and say, oh, I can divide by 1, even though I don't really need to, and say x is 225. So if the family drove for 9 hours, how far would they drive? They would drive 225 miles in 9 hours. All right, so that's one method. It works all the time. Another method sometimes people just don't see is like you can just use this common number of how do I get from 1 to 9, and that's times 9. So I can say 1 times 9 is 9, and I can say 25 times 9 is what, and that's 225 again. But again, if you like cross multiply, use it, but that's another method you could use. So we come down here, and it's a little bit different, but very similar. So again, a snail moved at a rate of 3 inches an hour. I made this up. I didn't. I promise I didn't go out and study the speed of a snail, even though that sounds extremely interesting. There's no way I'm ever going to do that. But it's this idea of looking at this idea. So I said, hey, a snail moved at a rate of 3 inches an hour. That's speed again. We're looking at 3 inches in 1 hour. There's our ratio. 3 inches in 1 hour. And so it says, how long did it take for the snail to move 4 feet? Now keep in mind, our ratio is inches to hour. So when we start looking here at 4 feet, we have to convert that. So what we recognize is that there are 4 feet, and we know that there's 12 inches in 1 foot. All right, so I can sit there and say that's times 12. And I know that's 48 inches. So I can come up here and say that's 48 inches. All right, and I want to know how long, so that's hour down here. So again, I can cross multiply. 3 times x is 3x. 1 times 48 is 48. I can divide by 3 and get 16. So again, I have to make sure what that answer means. X equals 16 doesn't answer the question, how long did it take for the snail to travel 4 feet? 16 is down here, and it goes down to hours. So I have to sit there and say, it took the snail 16 hours to move 4 feet. So that's what I'm looking for there. I don't want to say x equals 16. That doesn't make any sense in the problem of answering here. So I can do all the work. I can make it x for me, but it doesn't make any sense anywhere else. So I say this. I mean, it's this idea of I look at some of these kind of problems, and that's what I want to see. This idea of 9 a.m., 10 miles per hour, 9:30 a.m. I want to be able to look at a problem like this and kind of be able to break it down, and that's where we get this kind of interesting part of what's going on. And that's what I want to make sure we're looking at when we look at these kind of problems. So that's what I want you to kind of see when we practice some of these problems is, do you understand that kind of part? Do you know what miles per hour means? And there's a quick for our lesson. There's a quick little worksheet just to kind of understand what's going on with that. But that's what I want you to say. If you see miles per hour, what does that mean to you? What does 10 miles per hour mean? It means there's a ratio going on. He's going 10 miles in 1 hour. All right? And that's what we want to say. Average speed of 9 miles per hour. He's going 9 miles in 1 hour. And that's what I want to make sure we see that as something different. It's not just a measurement that's generic. It's a ratio that has to do with time and distance. So hopefully this will help a little bit when it comes to the word problems. But I want to make sure that we have an understanding. So the big thing for this section is I'm going to say it over and over and over. What does miles per hour mean to you? Does it make sense to you? Do you know what it actually is trying to say? So when we talk about speed, it's actually going to be a ratio of the idea of distance and time. All right.